Tonight, there is nothing you need to solve. No deadlines to meet, no messages to answer, no worries to carry. For the next few hours, the universe asks only one thing of you: to simply listen. As your eyes grow heavier, we'll leave behind the noise of Earth and begin a peaceful journey across billions of years of cosmic history. We'll drift through silent galaxies, witness the birth of stars, explore mysterious black holes, and travel farther than any human has ever gone. Every destination holds a remarkable story, not told to excite you, but to gently quiet your mind. You don't need to remember every fact. You don't need to stay awake until the end. Just let the calm rhythm of science carry your thoughts farther and farther into the darkness of space. So, dim the lights. Get comfortable. Take one slow, gentle breath. And together, let's begin our relaxing journey through the universe. Tonight, there is nowhere you need to be. Nothing you need to finish. No questions that must be answered before morning. For a little while, allow the noise of the day to fade into the distance. Settle into a comfortable position. Take a slow, gentle breath. And as you exhale, imagine leaving Earth behind. Far below you, cities glow like tiny constellations. Oceans reflect the pale light of the moon. Clouds drift silently across continents. Then, even our beautiful planet begins to disappear. The moon becomes a small companion. The sun shrinks into another distant star. Soon, the entire solar system becomes nothing more than a tiny point of light in an unimaginably vast ocean. Out here, there is only silence. A silence so complete that it has remained undisturbed for billions of years. It is peaceful. It is endless. And tonight, it is our home. As we drift deeper into space, one question quietly appears. Where did all of this begin? Every galaxy, every planet, every mountain, every ocean, every living creature, every atom inside your body has a story. A story that stretches back almost 13.8 billion years. Long before Earth. Long before the Sun. Long before the Milky Way became the magnificent galaxy we know today. To understand our place in the universe, we must travel backward, not through ordinary distance, but through time itself. Imagine watching the universe in reverse. Galaxies slowly begin moving closer together. Stars fade away. Nebulae disappear. Planets dissolve into clouds of gas and dust. One by one, the familiar landmarks of the cosmos quietly vanish, until there is almost nothing left. No shining galaxies, no black holes, no planets, no moons, no life. Only darkness and possibility. This period is sometimes called the Cosmic Dark Ages. But despite its name, it was never empty. Invisible clouds of hydrogen and helium quietly filled the expanding universe. These simple elements floated through space without making a sound, without producing a single ray of visible light. The universe was calm, patient, waiting. It may seem surprising that everything around us, mountains, trees, animals, even the device you're listening on, can trace its history back to these silent clouds. Yet that is exactly what happened. Every complex thing began with astonishing simplicity. Hydrogen, helium, gravity, and time. Gravity, the invisible architect of the universe, worked quietly. It never hurried. It never rested. Across millions of years, tiny differences in density slowly became larger. Where slightly more gas gathered, gravity gently pulled in even more. Little by little, clouds became thicker, denser, heavier. Nothing dramatic happened overnight. The universe preferred patience. Millions of years passed like calm waves upon an endless sea. If someone could have watched this process unfold, it would have seemed almost motionless. Yet hidden beneath this peaceful stillness, the future was already taking shape. Every future galaxy, every future star, Every future world was beginning to form, not because of explosions, not because of sudden miracles, but because gravity never stopped working. It simply continued, second after second, century after century, million year after million year. The universe teaches us something remarkable. Great changes rarely happen all at once. Instead, they are often built from countless tiny moments, each one almost impossible to notice. Just as rivers slowly carve valleys, gravity slowly shaped the cosmos. Eventually, some of these immense clouds became so massive that their own weight pushed inward with incredible force. The pressure deep inside continued rising. Temperatures climbed higher and higher, millions of degrees. Atoms began moving faster than ever before. The universe was approaching a moment unlike anything it had experienced, a moment that would end the darkness forever. But that story belongs to the next chapter. For now, allow yourself to simply float. Imagine those enormous silent clouds stretching across space. Blue-black darkness in every direction. No noise, no rush, only endless time, quietly preparing the first sunrise the universe would ever know. Take another slow breath. Feel your thoughts becoming lighter. The universe has waited billions of years for this story to be told. There is no need to hurry. Our journey has only just begun. For hundreds of millions of years, the universe remained wrapped in darkness. Not the darkness of fear, but the quiet darkness that exists before something extraordinary begins. If you had been there, floating through the young universe, you would have seen almost nothing. No familiar stars, no glowing galaxies, no brilliant colors stretching across the sky. Only vast clouds of invisible hydrogen, slowly drifting through endless space. There was no sound, no movement fast enough to notice. Only time, moving with incredible patience. Yet beneath that peaceful silence, something remarkable was happening. Gravity continued its quiet work. Every passing million years, tiny clouds became slightly larger, slightly heavier, slightly warmer. The changes were almost impossible to see. But the universe never rushed. It never needed to. Eventually, some clouds grew so massive that even gravity could no longer hold them in balance. The enormous weight of the gas pushed inward. The centers became hotter, denser, brighter. Hydrogen atoms, which had peacefully floated through space since the beginning, were now being squeezed together under unimaginable pressure. Nature was preparing one of its greatest inventions. A star, deep inside those collapsing clouds. Temperatures climbed beyond 10 million degrees. At such incredible heat, something extraordinary became possible. Hydrogen atoms, instead of drifting apart, began joining together. Their tiny nuclei fused, creating helium. This process is known as nuclear fusion. It may sound complicated, but in many ways, it is beautifully simple. Tiny pieces became one, and in doing so, released enormous amounts of energy. For the very first time, the universe created its own light. Imagine witnessing that first sunrise, not on Earth, not inside our solar system, but across the entire cosmos. After hundreds of millions of years of darkness, a single star ignited, then another, and another. One small point of light became thousands. Thousands became millions. The darkness slowly surrendered. The universe was waking up. Its first stars were unlike the stars we see today. Many were enormous, hundreds of times more massive than our sun. They burned with astonishing intensity. Their lives were short, but incredibly important. Inside their blazing cores, new elements were being created. Carbon, oxygen, nitrogen, iron. The very elements that would one day become oceans, mountains, trees, animals, and even us. Every breath you take contains atoms forged inside ancient stars that lived billions of years before Earth existed. In a very real sense, we are connected to those first lights. Every heartbeat, every thought, every dream carries a small piece of their history. As more stars appeared, gravity began gathering them together. Small groups formed, then larger groups. Eventually, the first galaxies slowly emerged from the darkness. These early galaxies looked very different from the graceful spiral shapes we admire today. They were chaotic, young, filled with brilliant newborn stars. Yet even then, the universe was already beginning to resemble the one we know. Light traveled freely across space. Galaxies continued growing. New stars were born. Old stars quietly faded away. The great cosmic cycle had begun. Birth, change, transformation, again and again, across billions of years. Even today, that cycle continues. Somewhere, far beyond anything we can ever visit, new stars are being born this very moment. Entire solar systems are quietly taking shape. Planets are forming. Perhaps, on one distant world, someone may one day look into their own night sky and wonder exactly what we are wondering tonight. Where did it all begin? The universe never stopped creating. It simply changed its rhythm from silent darkness to endless light. And our journey has only moved one small step forward. Ahead of us lies something even more beautiful. The graceful birth of galaxies, the islands of stars that would eventually become the homes of planets, life, and perhaps countless untold stories still waiting among the stars. As the first stars continued to shine, the universe slowly transformed. What had once been an endless ocean of darkness became a place filled with gentle islands of light. These islands were the first galaxies. They did not appear overnight. Like everything else in the universe, their creation required extraordinary patience. Gravity, the quiet architect we met earlier, continued guiding the dance of matter. Billions upon billions of stars slowly gathered together. Some galaxies remained small, holding only a few million stars. Others grew into magnificent giants, containing hundreds of billions. Every galaxy became its own small universe, filled with stars, clouds of glowing gas, invisible dark matter, and endless possibilities. If you could float far enough away, the view would be breathtaking. Imagine standing on a peaceful shoreline at night. Instead of tiny islands rising from the sea, you see glowing galaxies floating across infinite space, each one separated by unimaginable distances, each one carrying its own history, its own future, its own quiet beauty. Among these countless galaxies, one would eventually become our home, the Milky Way. Today, astronomers estimate it contains between 100 and 400 billion stars, a number so large that our minds struggle to picture it. If you counted one star every second, without ever stopping, it would take thousands of years just to count them all. Yet the Milky Way itself is only one galaxy among hundreds of billions throughout the observable universe, perhaps even trillions. Every improvement in our telescopes reveals even more distant galaxies, stretching farther into space than we once believed possible. The universe always seems larger than our imagination expects, and somehow, that realization feels comforting. It reminds us that there will always be more to discover, more questions, more mysteries, more beauty waiting quietly beyond the next horizon. Within these young galaxies, stars continued living their remarkable lives. Some remained peaceful for billions of years. Others burned fiercely, using up their fuel with incredible speed. When those massive stars reached the end of their lives, they exploded in brilliant supernovas. For a brief moment, one dying star could outshine an entire galaxy. These explosions were not acts of destruction alone. They were acts of creation. The heavy elements forged inside those ancient stars were scattered across space. Carbon, oxygen, silicon, iron, calcium, gold. Everything needed to build rocky planets, flowing rivers, towering mountains, and eventually, living beings capable of wondering where they came from. Even the calcium inside your bones, the iron flowing through your blood, and the oxygen filling your lungs were once part of ancient stars that lived and died long before our sun existed. The universe has always recycled itself. Nothing is truly wasted. One generation of stars quietly gives birth to the next. Clouds enriched by ancient explosions collapse once again under gravity. New stars ignite. New planets begin to form. The cycle continues, again and again, across billions of years. It is one of the most peaceful rhythms in nature, a rhythm far too slow for human eyes to witness, yet always unfolding around us. Somewhere in the distant universe, a star is being born. Somewhere else, another has reached the end of its journey. The universe is never truly still. It simply moves, at a pace almost impossible for us to notice. As we drift gently through this endless cosmic ocean, something remarkable becomes clear. The story of the universe is also our story. Without those first stars, there would be no planets. Without ancient supernovas, there would be no Earth. Without billions of years of quiet change, there would be no life. And without life, there would be no one to look upward and wonder. Take another slow breath. Imagine yourself floating between galaxies. No sound, no weight, only soft starlight stretching endlessly in every direction. The universe asks nothing from you. It simply invites you to observe, to relax, to drift. And in our next chapter, we'll travel closer to home, to discover how one ordinary cloud of gas and dust became the extraordinary solar system we call home. Our journey has only just begun. As we leave behind the first galaxies and the brilliant lives of ancient stars, our journey slowly carries us toward a very ordinary place. Not the brightest, not the largest, not the most extraordinary. Yet, for us, it is the most important place in the entire universe. A quiet spiral galaxy, known as the Milky Way. If we could observe it from far beyond its edges, it would appear as a graceful whirlpool of light, delicate spiral arms, slowly turning around a brilliant central core. Not quickly, not dramatically. One complete rotation takes hundreds of millions of years. Everything inside the galaxy, stars, nebulae, planets, and even our own solar system, moves together in this silent cosmic dance. The Milky Way stretches across nearly 100,000 light-years. To understand that distance, imagine traveling at the speed of light, the fastest speed nature allows. Even then, crossing our galaxy from one side to the other would take 100,000 years. The scale is almost impossible to imagine. Yet despite its immense size, the Milky Way is only one galaxy among countless others. Some are larger, some are smaller, each quietly following its own journey through the universe. Our home lies far from the crowded center. Instead, the solar system rests within one of the galaxy's peaceful spiral arms, a calm neighborhood, where stars are spread comfortably apart. If our sun had formed closer to the galactic center, life might never have appeared. Powerful radiation, frequent supernova explosions, and crowded stellar environments would have made the region far more dangerous. Instead, nature offered us something rare: stability. Sometimes, the safest places are also the quietest. Long before Earth existed, a nearby generation of massive stars reached the ends of their lives. One after another, they exploded as supernovas. These magnificent explosions scattered freshly created elements across nearby space: carbon, silicon, magnesium, Iron, gold, calcium, the ingredients for future worlds, floated gently through enormous clouds of gas and dust. Over millions of years, those clouds slowly mixed together. Gravity, patient as always, began gathering them once more. A single region inside one cloud became slightly denser than the rest. Only a tiny difference. Yet it was enough. Gravity pulled inward, gathering more material. As more gas collected, its weight increased. Pressure slowly rose. The cloud began collapsing. Not violently, not suddenly, gracefully, like snowflakes drifting toward the ground. The entire cloud slowly rotated. At first, the movement was almost impossible to notice, but as the cloud became smaller, its spin gradually increased. Just as an ice skater spins faster by pulling in their arms, nature followed the same simple law. The shrinking cloud turned faster and faster. Eventually, it flattened into a vast rotating disk. At its center, a young star was beginning to awaken. This newborn star would eventually become our sun. But it was not shining yet. For now, it remained hidden inside thick clouds of gas and dust, its light unable to escape. Around it, the remaining material continued circling peacefully. Tiny grains of dust, no larger than grains of sand, drifted through the spinning disk. Occasionally, two particles gently touched. Instead of drifting apart, they remained together. Then another joined, and another. Over countless millions of years, small particles became pebbles. Pebbles became rocks. Rocks became mountains floating through space. Slowly, worlds were beginning to take shape. The universe never hurried this process. Every collision, every orbit, every gentle pull of gravity added another page to the story. No one watched it happen. No audience applauded. Yet one of the greatest creations in cosmic history was quietly unfolding. A planetary system, destined to become home. Among those growing worlds, one small planet would eventually find the perfect balance. Not too close to its star, not too far away. Warm enough for liquid water, stable enough for life. That tiny blue world was still millions of years away, but its story had already begun. Take another slow breath. Imagine that enormous glowing cloud, turning silently beneath countless distant stars. A place filled with possibility. A place where gravity, once again, was quietly creating something beautiful. And in the next chapter, we will witness the birth of the sun and the remarkable formation of the planets that would one day surround it. Deep within the rotating cloud, something extraordinary was happening. The center continued growing hotter. Every second, gravity pulled more gas inward. Hydrogen atoms, the simplest building blocks in the universe, gathered closer than ever before. Pressure increased beyond imagination. Millions of tons of material fell inward every moment. Yet from the outside, the clouds still looked peaceful. Nature often hides its greatest transformations behind remarkable silence. As millions of years passed, the young sun became denser, hotter, brighter. Its heart, though still invisible, was preparing for one of the most important moments in our story. Then, at last, the temperature deep inside reached nearly 15 million degrees Celsius. Hydrogen atoms, unable to resist the crushing pressure, began merging together. Tiny particles combined, releasing tremendous energy. The process is called nuclear fusion. It is the same quiet engine that still powers our sun today. Without fire, without burning, without flames. Instead, the sun shines because matter itself is slowly becoming energy. At that instant, our star was truly born. Light, for the first time, pushed outward from its center. Powerful streams of energy escaped into space. The surrounding clouds of gas and dust were gradually blown away. After millions of hidden years, the young sun finally appeared. Bright, warm, steady. Its light reached every corner of the spinning disk surrounding it. That same sunlight still reaches Earth today. Every sunrise, every golden afternoon, every warm summer morning can trace its beginning back to this single moment. Around the newborn sun, the great disk of dust continued turning. Small, rocky bodies collided gently. Some impacts were soft, others were violent. Occasionally, entire growing worlds crashed together. These collisions may sound destructive, but they were part of creation itself. Each impact allowed planets to become larger, stronger, more complete. Over tens of millions of years, the solar system slowly organized itself. Closer to the sun, heat was intense. Only rock and metal could survive. Farther away, temperatures became much colder. Ice joined the mixture. Enormous gas giants began taking shape. Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune, each becoming a world unlike anything found on Earth. Between them, countless smaller objects remained. Asteroids, comets, frozen worlds quietly circling the sun. Nothing in the solar system was placed randomly. Every orbit, every distance, every path was guided by gravity, the invisible force that had shaped the universe since its earliest moments. Even today, the planets continue following those same ancient paths. Earth circles the sun once every year. The moon circles Earth every month. Everything moves together, in perfect harmony. The solar system is less like a collection of separate worlds, and more like an elegant dance, one that has continued for more than 4.5 billion years. Imagine standing far above it all, looking down upon the newborn solar system. The young sun glows softly at the center. Clouds of golden dust circle peacefully around it. Tiny worlds slowly emerge from the swirling disk. There is no hurry, no chaos. Only time, patiently building a place where life will one day begin. Among all these growing planets, one small rocky world quietly waits. At first glance, it seems unremarkable, just another sphere of molten rock. But hidden within its future are oceans, mountains, forests, clouds, animals, and eventually, a curious species that will gaze into the night sky, searching for answers. That tiny world is still taking shape. Its greatest chapters have yet to be written. Take another slow breath and allow yourself to drift beside the young sun. Feel its gentle warmth spreading across the silent darkness. Our home is almost ready. Among the many young worlds, one small planet quietly continued its journey around the newborn sun. At first, there was nothing peaceful about it. The Earth we know today, covered with forest, oceans, and life, did not yet exist. Instead, our planet was a glowing sphere of molten rock. Its surface shimmered like a vast ocean of liquid fire. Volcanoes erupted almost constantly. Rivers of lava flowed across the landscape. The sky, if it could even be called a sky, was filled with thick clouds of steam, carbon dioxide, and volcanic gases. No blue oceans, no gentle rain, no birds, no trees, no living creatures, only heat, silence, and endless transformation. It may sound like a harsh beginning, yet every beautiful place must begin somewhere. Earth was still growing, still changing, still becoming. During these early years, countless asteroids and comets crossed the solar system. Many struck the young Earth. Some were no larger than mountains. Others stretched hundreds of kilometers across. Each collision released unimaginable energy. For millions of years, our planet experienced what scientists call the Late Heavy Bombardment. Space itself seemed restless, yet even these violent impacts played an important role. Some scientists believe many of those ancient comets carried frozen water. Others may have delivered simple organic molecules, the tiny chemical ingredients that would one day help life begin. Creation often arrives in unexpected ways. As millions of years passed, Earth slowly cooled. The surface, once entirely molten, began forming a thin, rocky crust. At first, it was fragile. Volcanoes frequently broke through it. New land formed, only to melt once again. But little by little, the crust became stronger, more stable. The planet was finding its balance. Above, the thick atmosphere trapped enormous amounts of heat. Water vapor filled the sky. Clouds grew larger and darker. Eventually, the temperature dropped enough for something remarkable to happen. Rain began to fall, not for hours, not for days, not even for years. Some scientists believe it may have rained for millions of years. Imagine standing on that ancient Earth, a dark sky overhead, lightning flashing across endless clouds, warm rain falling without pause, tiny rivers slowly carving fresh stone, basins filling with water, drop by drop. The first oceans appeared, the same oceans whose distant descendants still cover more than 70% of our planet today. Those early seas looked very different from the ones we know. There were no fish, no coral reefs, no whales gliding beneath the waves, only warm, mineral-rich water, stretching across a quiet world. Yet hidden inside those ancient oceans, the future was waiting. The ingredients for life: hydrogen, carbon, nitrogen, oxygen, phosphorus, sulfur, all drifted together, carried by waves, mixed by lightning, heated by volcanic vents beneath the sea. No one knows the exact moment when chemistry became biology. It remains one of science's greatest mysteries. Somewhere, perhaps near deep-sea hydrothermal vents, or within shallow tidal pools, simple molecules joined together, then became more complex. Eventually, one tiny structure gained an extraordinary ability. It could make a copy of itself. That quiet moment may have been the beginning of every living thing that has ever existed. Every tree, every flower, every dinosaur, every bird, every whale, every human being can trace their history back to unimaginably tiny beginnings. Life did not arrive fully formed. It started gently, patiently, almost invisibly. For billions of years, single-celled organisms quietly transformed the planet, slowly changing the atmosphere, producing oxygen, preparing Earth for future generations of life. The universe had spent billions of years creating stars, then galaxies, then planets. And now, on one small blue world orbiting an ordinary star, something entirely new had appeared: life. Take one slow breath. Imagine floating high above the young Earth. Clouds drift peacefully across endless oceans. The sun rises over a world that has no idea what wonders still lie ahead. In the next chapter, our journey will follow life itself, from the smallest microscopic cells to the incredible diversity of creatures that would one day walk beneath the stars. For an unimaginably long time, life remained almost invisible. There were no forests, no birds singing at sunrise, no fish gliding through clear water, no flowers opening beneath the morning light. The entire story of life was written by microscopic organisms, too small to be seen with human eyes. Yet these tiny pioneers would change an entire planet. Imagine drifting above the young Earth. The oceans stretch endlessly beneath soft clouds. The continents are still unfamiliar. The air is heavy, rich with carbon dioxide, and almost completely lacking oxygen. To us, it would be impossible to breathe. But the earliest life forms needed no oxygen at all. They quietly survived in the warm oceans, drawing energy from simple chemical reactions. For hundreds of millions of years, their world changed very little. Then, evolution uncovered an extraordinary new ability. Some ancient microorganisms learned how to capture sunlight. Instead of relying only on chemicals, they began using light itself to create energy. This process, known today as photosynthesis, would become one of the most important discoveries in the history of life. As these tiny organisms absorbed sunlight, they released a substance that had once been almost absent from Earth's atmosphere: oxygen. At first, the oxygen disappeared almost immediately. It reacted with iron dissolved in the oceans, forming vast layers of rust upon the seafloor. Even today, many ancient rocks preserve the memory of that remarkable transformation. Eventually, the oceans could absorb no more. Slowly, almost unnoticed, oxygen began collecting in the atmosphere. The sky itself was changing. This period is often called the Great Oxygenation Event. For many early organisms, it was a catastrophe. The oxygen that would one day support animals was poisonous to countless forms of ancient life. Many disappeared forever. Others adapted. Nature has always rewarded change, not perfection. Over millions of years, life continued experimenting. New cells appeared. Some became larger, more complex. Tiny organisms began living together, helping one another survive. What had once been simple was slowly becoming extraordinary. Every new adaptation opened another door, another possibility, another path waiting to be explored. The oceans, once nearly empty, gradually filled with increasing diversity. Invisible worlds, bustling with quiet activity. Although nothing yet resembled the familiar creatures of today, the foundation had been laid. The atmosphere continued filling with oxygen. High above the planet, some of that oxygen formed a delicate shield, the ozone layer. This invisible blanket protected Earth's surface from much of the sun's harmful ultraviolet radiation. Without it, life on land might never have become possible. The universe had once again shown remarkable patience. Hundreds of millions of years passed in preparation for events still far in the future. Sometimes, the greatest changes happen so slowly that no single generation could ever notice them. And yet, their effects reshape entire worlds. Take a slow breath. Imagine sunlight reflecting across those ancient oceans. Tiny, invisible organisms working quietly beneath the waves, never knowing that they were preparing a home for forests, dinosaurs, birds, whales, and one day, for us. Our journey through time continues. For nearly 3 billion years, life belonged to the oceans. The sea was its cradle, its shelter, its entire world. Above the waves, the continents remained almost empty, silent, barren, shaped only by wind, rain, and the slow movement of Earth's restless crust. No trees reached toward the sky. No insects hummed through the air. No footprints marked the ground. The land waited patiently, as if holding its breath. Yet beneath the surface of the oceans, evolution never stopped. Tiny changes, almost impossible to notice in a single lifetime, accumulated over countless generations. Some organisms became larger. Others became stronger. Many developed entirely new ways to survive. Nature never planned ahead. It simply explored every possibility. One small improvement led to another, and another, until one day, some living things discovered a remarkable opportunity: the edge of the sea. Shallow coastal waters, bathed in sunlight, rich with nutrients, became places of endless experimentation. Here, life encountered a challenge unlike anything before: the tides. Twice each day, the water gently retreated. Small pools remained behind, temporarily isolated from the ocean. Creatures trapped inside these pools faced a difficult choice: adapt or disappear. Some developed stronger bodies. Others learned to survive for short periods without complete immersion in water. Over millions of years, these tiny advantages accumulated. Generation after generation, life slowly prepared itself for an entirely new world. The first explorers of land were not towering animals. They were humble pioneers, simple mats of microbes spread across damp rocks. Algae clung to the edges of shallow pools. Eventually, the earliest plants appeared. Small, delicate, barely rising above the ground. Yet their arrival changed everything. They captured sunlight, released oxygen, and slowly transformed barren landscapes into living environments. The continents, once gray and lifeless, began showing hints of green. Rain continued to fall. Rivers carved valleys through ancient stone. The atmosphere grew richer in oxygen. Conditions became increasingly welcoming. Soon, small arthropods followed, ancient relatives of insects. Spiders and millipedes ventured onto the damp soil. Their journeys were cautious. Every step represented millions of years of evolutionary progress. Imagine witnessing those first moments. A quiet shoreline beneath a pale sky. Gentle waves washing against dark rocks. Tiny green plants swaying in the breeze. A small creature, no larger than your fingertip, carefully crossing wet sand for the very first time. No audience watched. No celebration marked the occasion. Yet one of the greatest adventures in Earth's history had begun. Life had left the sea. The land was no longer empty. Over countless ages, plants spread farther inland. Roots broke apart solid rock. The first soils slowly formed. Rainwater carried minerals across the landscape. New habitats emerged. Forests, though still far in the future, had taken their very first breath. The transformation was astonishingly slow. A human lifetime would notice almost nothing. Even 1,000 generations would struggle to see meaningful change. But Earth measures time differently. It works in millions of years, with patience. Even the impossible becomes inevitable. The once barren continents were becoming alive. Every leaf, every root, every tiny creature prepared the planet for something even greater. Animals would soon follow. The age of giant forests, enormous insects, and extraordinary creatures was quietly approaching. Take another slow breath. Picture yourself standing on that ancient shoreline. The air is fresh. The waves move gently behind you. Ahead, the first green landscape stretches toward the horizon. The Earth feels peaceful, hopeful, as though it knows its greatest stories are still waiting to unfold. The Earth was no longer silent. For billions of years, the continents had waited patiently. Now, life was beginning to reshape every landscape. Small plants, once hugging the damp ground, reached a little higher each generation. Their roots pushed deeper into the soil. Their leaves stretched toward the sun. Year after year, century after century, million after million years, the world slowly turned green. What began as scattered patches of vegetation eventually became immense forests. Not the forests we know today, but ancient worlds unlike anything now alive. Towering club mosses rose more than 30 meters into the sky. Giant horsetails stood as tall as modern trees. Primitive ferns spread across vast landscapes, creating endless carpets of green beneath the warm sunlight. The air itself felt different, rich with oxygen, far richer than today's atmosphere. That abundance allowed some creatures to grow to astonishing sizes. Dragonflies, with wings wider than a hawk. Millipedes, longer than many people are tall. Ancient insects wandered through forests that seemed almost magical. Imagine walking quietly beneath those towering plants. Sunlight filters gently through enormous leaves. The air is warm, moist, filled with the earthy scent of growing forests. Massive insects drift silently overhead. Streams wind peacefully between giant roots. No birds sing above you. No flowering plants brighten the landscape. The earth feels familiar, yet completely different. Every corner of this ancient world carries the quiet feeling of a planet still discovering itself. As forests expanded, they transformed more than the scenery. Their roots stabilized the soil. Their leaves absorbed carbon dioxide. Their fallen trunks slowly became buried beneath mud and sediment. Over millions of years, those ancient forests, compressed beneath tremendous pressure, would slowly transform into something unexpected. Coal. Much of the coal used by human civilization began as these peaceful forests, growing more than 300 million years ago. Even today, their story remains hidden beneath our feet. Nature rarely wastes anything. The past quietly becomes part of the future. Meanwhile, evolution continued its patient work. Some fish, living in shallow coastal waters, faced an unusual challenge. Seasonal droughts caused ponds to shrink. Water slowly disappeared beneath the hot sun. For creatures trapped inside, survival depended upon change. Some developed stronger fins. Others evolved simple lungs, allowing them to breathe air for short periods. Generation after generation, their bodies slowly adapted. What had once been fins became stronger limbs. Flexible joints appeared. Muscles grew more powerful. Eventually, some of these remarkable animals could pull themselves across muddy ground. Their first journeys were short, only a few meters, then a little farther. Each small success opened another possibility. The land, once empty, now welcomed larger explorers. These early amphibians still depended upon water, but they represented something extraordinary. Life had taken another great step forward. The oceans, though still full of incredible diversity, were no longer the only home. The continents had become living worlds. As millions of years continued passing, the descendants of these pioneering animals would eventually evolve into reptiles, then dinosaurs, then birds, then mammals. Every chapter built upon the quiet achievements of those first uncertain steps across ancient shorelines. The universe never rushed this story. It allowed each generation to gently prepare the way for the next. Perhaps that is one of nature's greatest lessons. Nothing magnificent appears all at once. Galaxies require billions of years. Mountains require millions. Forests grow one ring at a time. And life itself advances through countless tiny changes, almost too small to notice. Take another slow breath. Picture yourself standing at the edge of one of those ancient forests. A warm breeze moves gently through giant leaves. A dragonfly glides silently overhead. In the distance, a quiet amphibian disappears into a peaceful stream. The world feels calm, unhurried, filled with endless possibility. And somewhere beyond the horizon, another remarkable age is waiting. An age that will one day belong to the dinosaurs. The Earth never stopped changing. Long after the first forests covered the continents, and the earliest animals ventured onto land, time continued its quiet work. Mountains slowly rose. Ancient seas shifted. Entire continents drifted across the planet. At the speed your fingernails grow, no living creature noticed. Yet over millions of years, the world became almost unrecognizable. Life continued experimenting. Some species flourished, others quietly disappeared. Every ending made room for a new beginning. Then, about 252 million years ago, Earth experienced its darkest chapter, the greatest mass extinction our planet has ever known. Powerful volcanic eruptions, lasting for hundreds of thousands of years, released enormous amounts of carbon dioxide into the atmosphere. Temperatures climbed. Oceans became warmer. Many lost their oxygen. Countless ecosystems collapsed. Scientists estimate that nearly 90% of marine species disappeared. On land, most plants and animals vanished as well. For a time, the earth grew strangely quiet. The forests became sparse. The diversity of life was reduced to only a small fraction of what had existed before. It might have seemed as though nature had reached its end. But the universe has always shown remarkable resilience. Life endured. Small survivors, almost unnoticed, began rebuilding the world. Generation after generation, new species slowly appeared. The planet healed itself. Millions of years passed. Forests returned. Rivers flowed peacefully once again. Fresh ecosystems spread across the continents. And among those recovering landscapes, a new group of animals quietly emerged. At first, they were neither large nor especially impressive. They walked on two legs. Most were no bigger than modern dogs. For millions of years, they lived in the shadows of larger reptiles. Few could have imagined that these modest creatures would one day become the rulers of Earth. They were the first dinosaurs. Contrary to popular imagination, the earliest dinosaurs did not dominate the planet immediately. Their rise was gradual, patient, just like everything else in nature. As climates shifted and competing species slowly disappeared, dinosaurs found new opportunities. They adapted to deserts, forests, floodplains, mountain valleys. Every generation became slightly different from the last. Some evolved long necks, perfect for reaching towering vegetation. Others developed powerful jaws, sharp claws, or remarkable speed. The age of dinosaurs did not begin with giants. It began with small steps, repeated over millions of years. Eventually, the continents joined together into one enormous supercontinent. Pangaea. Imagine standing upon that ancient world. You could travel farther across land than ever before in Earth's history. Vast deserts stretched across the interior. Seasonal rains nourished distant forests. The climate was warmer than today. The nights, filled with unfamiliar constellations. There were no flowering plants yet, no grasses, no colorful meadows. Instead, ancient conifers, cycads, and giant ferns dominated the landscape. The world looked wonderfully alien. Yet beneath those unfamiliar trees, life flourished. Small dinosaurs searched quietly for food. Early mammals, tiny and mostly nocturnal, lived unnoticed beneath fallen logs and dense vegetation. They avoided the larger reptiles, waiting patiently through the long night. No one could have guessed that these tiny mammals would one day inherit the Earth. Nature never reveals its future too early. Every living thing, no matter how small, carries possibilities beyond imagination. Take another slow breath. Picture yourself standing beside a peaceful river. Nearly 230 million years ago, the warm breeze moves gently through ancient trees. A small dinosaur leaves delicate footprints in soft mud. Far away, a volcano quietly smolders beneath the evening sky. The world feels calm, young, full of promise. The greatest giants in Earth's history have not yet arrived, but their footsteps are already drawing closer. As millions of years quietly passed, the world became greener. Rivers carved gentle paths across wide valleys. Ancient forests stretched farther than the eye could see. The supercontinent of Pangaea slowly began to break apart. Invisible forces beneath Earth's surface moved entire continents. only a few centimeters each year. No creature noticed. Yet over countless generations, oceans slowly opened, coastlines changed, fresh habitats appeared. Life responded, as it always had, by adapting. The dinosaurs, once small and cautious, were now flourishing. Each new environment encouraged new forms. Some became swift hunters, built for speed and precision. Others evolved into peaceful giants, feeding on the endless forests that covered the land. One group, the long-necked sauropods, would eventually become the largest animals ever to walk upon Earth. Imagine standing quietly beside an ancient lake, 150 million years ago. Morning mist rises gently above the water. The first rays of sunlight filter through towering conifer trees. In the distance, the ground begins to tremble, not violently, but with a slow, steady rhythm. A herd of enormous sauropods moves peacefully across the plain. Each step softly shakes the earth beneath your feet. Their necks rise higher than modern buildings. Their tails stretch behind them like living bridges. Despite their incredible size, their movements are graceful, unhurried, almost silent. These gentle giants spend nearly every waking hour eating leaves, branches, fresh shoots growing high in the forest canopy. Their immense bodies require enormous amounts of energy, yet they show no aggression, only patience, calmness, and quiet persistence. Nearby, smaller dinosaurs wander among the ferns. Some search for insects beneath fallen logs. Others gather seeds and soft plants. The forest is alive with movement, yet strangely peaceful. There are no human voices, no engines, no distant cities, only the soft rustling of leaves, the gentle flow of rivers, and the steady rhythm of life. Not all dinosaurs were peaceful plant eaters. Across these ancient landscapes, powerful predators also roamed. Creatures with sharp teeth, strong muscles, and extraordinary senses. Yet even these hunters did not kill endlessly. Like every living animal, they hunted only when necessary. A successful hunt meant survival. Failure meant hunger. Nature has never been cruel, only balanced. Every predator helped maintain the health of its ecosystem. Every prey species played its own important role. Together, they formed an intricate web of life, refined over millions of years. Above the forest, the skies also grew busy. Long before modern birds filled the air, flying reptiles known as pterosaurs glided effortlessly on warm currents. Some were no larger than pigeons. Others possessed wings wider than a small airplane. They soared silently above rivers, cliffs, and coastlines, watching the world below. Although they often lived alongside dinosaurs, pterosaurs were not dinosaurs themselves. They belonged to their own remarkable branch of Earth's evolutionary story. As the sun slowly crossed the sky, the forests glowed with warm golden light. Shadows stretched across ancient valleys. The air carried the scent of damp earth, fresh leaves, and flowing water. For millions upon millions of years, this world remained astonishingly stable. Entire generations lived, thrived, and quietly disappeared. While new generations followed, the earth seemed timeless, unchanging, as though this peaceful age would continue forever. But deep within the universe, change is always waiting. Far beyond the solar system, a massive star, many light years away, had already reached the end of its life. Its story would eventually cross paths with Earth's own. Neither the dinosaurs, nor the forests, nor the oceans could yet know that their peaceful world was moving toward one final chapter. For now, the giants continue their quiet walk beneath ancient skies, unaware that every sunset brings them one day closer to the moment that would change life on Earth forever. Take one slow, comforting breath. Picture the endless green forests fading into evening, the last light of the sun, resting gently across the backs of the great dinosaurs. The air is still, the world is calm, and somewhere, far beyond the stars, destiny has already begun its journey. For more than 160 million years, the dinosaurs flourished. Generation after generation, they walked across ancient floodplains, nested along quiet riverbanks, raised their young beneath towering forests. To them, the world must have felt eternal. The sun rose each morning. The seasons gently came and went. The stars crossed the night sky, just as they always had. Nothing suggested that this peaceful age was nearing its end. Yet, far beyond the edge of our solar system, the universe continued its endless dance. Stars were born. Others quietly faded away. Galaxies drifted through space. And one small object, no larger than a mountain, began a journey that would change Earth's history forever. It was an asteroid, a silent traveler, moving through the darkness for millions of years. It carried no intention, no purpose. It simply followed the path that gravity had given it. As Earth continued orbiting the sun, the distance between the two slowly disappeared. No dinosaur looked upward. No ancient forest sensed its arrival. The sky remained calm. Bird-like dinosaurs searched for food. Small mammals slept safely beneath fallen trees. The oceans rolled gently against distant shores. Life continued, completely unaware. Then, about 66 million years ago, the asteroid entered Earth's atmosphere. It traveled faster than any aircraft ever built, faster than a rifle bullet. The air in front of it compressed with tremendous force. Its surface glowed brighter than the sun. For only a few seconds, the night became day. The impact occurred near what is now Mexico's Yucatan Peninsula. The energy released was almost beyond imagination. It has been compared to billions of atomic bombs exploding at once. The ground itself momentarily behaved like water. Rock melted instantly. Mountains shattered. A vast crater, more than 180 kilometers wide, formed within moments. Shockwaves raced across the planet. Earthquakes shook entire continents. Gigantic tsunamis, some taller than skyscrapers, swept across ancient coastlines. Pieces of molten rock were launched far beyond the atmosphere. Hours later, they fell back toward Earth, heating the sky until it glowed red. Many forests ignited. Ash and dust climbed high into the atmosphere. For weeks, then months, sunlight struggled to reach the surface. Temperatures slowly dropped. Plants could no longer grow normally. Food chains, built over millions of years, began to collapse. The great dinosaurs, so perfectly adapted to their ancient world, faced challenges they could not overcome. Not in a single day, but over months, years, and generations. Many species quietly disappeared. Their long story came to an end. Yet, not everything was lost. Hidden beneath the forest floor, inside underground burrows, within quiet streams, small survivors remained. Tiny mammals, birds, reptiles, amphibians, insects, seeds resting patiently beneath the soil. Life, once again, endured. Nature has always possessed a remarkable ability to begin again. What seems like an ending often becomes the first page of another story. Without that distant asteroid, the Earth we know today might never have existed. The age of giant dinosaurs may have continued. Tiny mammals would perhaps have remained small, living quietly in the shadows. History can turn on a single moment, or on a single stone, falling silently through space. As centuries became millions of years, the dust slowly settled. Sunlight returned. Fresh green plants emerged from the blackened ground. Rivers flowed once again. The forests, though forever changed, began to grow. And among the quiet survivors, the mammals, once small and easily overlooked, stepped into a world filled with new opportunities. Their greatest journey was only beginning. Take one slow, peaceful breath. Imagine the Earth, many years after the impact. The skies are blue once more. Young forests cover the hills. Birdsong echoes through the morning air. The world feels calm again. The universe reminds us that even after immense change, life has an extraordinary way of finding hope. The silence did not last forever. After the great asteroid impact, the Earth slowly began to heal. Ash settled gently upon the ground. The skies gradually became clearer. Sunlight, once hidden behind thick clouds of dust, returned to warm the surface again. The forests, though forever changed, began growing once more. Tiny green shoots pushed through dark soil. Ferns spread across quiet valleys. Rivers carried fresh minerals toward the sea. Nature, patient as always, was beginning another chapter. For millions of years, the giant dinosaurs had shaped the world. Now, their footsteps had faded into history. The landscapes they once ruled stood strangely quiet. But empty places rarely remain empty for long. Life always searches for opportunity. Among the survivors were creatures so small that many dinosaurs had probably never noticed them. Early mammals. They had lived quietly for millions of years, sheltering underground, hunting insects beneath fallen leaves, waiting through the long nights. They were not powerful. They were not enormous. But they possessed something invaluable: adaptability. With the great reptiles gone, the world suddenly offered countless new possibilities. Forests without giant herbivores, open landscapes without towering predators, fresh food sources, empty habitats. The mammals responded, not with speed, but with patience. Some climbed trees, others returned to the oceans. Many remained on the ground, exploring forests, grasslands, and mountains. Generation after generation, their bodies slowly changed. Their senses sharpened. Their brains became larger. Their young received greater care from their parents. Unlike many reptiles, mammals fed their babies with milk, protected them, stayed beside them. This close bond allowed young animals to learn, rather than relying only on instinct. Knowledge could now be passed from one generation to the next, not through written words, but through experience. This simple change would shape the future of life. Millions of years slipped quietly by. The continents continued drifting. Mountain ranges slowly rose. New oceans widened. The climate changed again and again. Ice ages came, then disappeared. Forests expanded, then retreated. Every environmental change created fresh opportunities. Some mammals became swift runners, perfectly suited to open plains. Others grew thick fur to survive colder climates. Still others developed remarkable intelligence, allowing them to solve problems in entirely new ways. Among these curious creatures, a small group began spending more time in the trees. Their hands became better at gripping branches. Their eyes faced forward, providing excellent depth perception. Living high above the forest floor required careful balance, quick thinking, and cooperation. These tree-dwelling mammals were the distant ancestors of primates. At first, they were tiny, quiet, almost insignificant. If you had walked through those ancient forests, you might never have noticed them. Yet hidden within their future was one of the most remarkable stories the universe would ever tell. Take a slow breath. Imagine a peaceful forest 50 million years ago. Morning sunlight filters gently through the leaves. Small mammals leap silently from branch to branch. Birds fill the air with soft songs. A cool breeze carries the scent of fresh rain. The world feels calm, balanced, full of quiet possibility. No creature here knows that among these tiny primates, one lineage will eventually learn to walk upright, to wonder about the stars, and to ask the same timeless question: how did all of this begin? Our own story is drawing closer. For millions of years, the forests echoed with quiet life. Small primates, curious and adaptable, moved gracefully through the branches. They searched for fruit, shared food with one another, protected their young, and slowly, very slowly, their story continued to unfold. The earth itself never stopped changing. The continents drifted farther apart. Mountain ranges slowly rose toward the sky. Ocean currents shifted. The climate grew cooler. In some regions, dense forests gradually gave way to wide grasslands. For many animals, this changing world became a challenge. But challenges often become opportunities. Some ancient primates found themselves spending more time on the ground. The open plains offered new sources of food, but also new dangers. Tall grass could hide powerful predators. Seeing farther across the landscape became increasingly important. Over countless generations, a remarkable transformation began. Some early ancestors started walking upright, at first only for short distances, then a little farther. Eventually, standing on two legs became natural. Walking upright changed everything. Their hands no longer needed to support their weight. Instead, they became free. Free to carry food, free to gather useful objects, free to care for their young, and one day, free to create tools. The human hand, with its remarkable thumb, would eventually shape civilizations. But that future was still unimaginably far away. These early ancestors were not yet human. Their brains were smaller. Their lives were simple. They lived in close family groups. They communicated through sounds, gestures, and expressions. Each generation learned a little more than the one before. Knowledge passed quietly from parent to child, just as it had among mammals for millions of years. Then, something extraordinary happened. The brain, already growing larger, continued evolving. Memory improved. Curiosity deepened. Problem-solving became more advanced. Simple stones were carefully shaped into tools. Wooden branches became useful instruments. Fire, perhaps first feared, eventually became a trusted companion. It offered warmth, protection, cooked food, and light after sunset. Imagine sitting beside one of those ancient fires. Night has settled across the African savanna. Above, thousands of stars shine with remarkable clarity. There are no cities, no roads, no electric lights. Only the quiet crackle of flames and the distant calls of wild animals. Around the fire, a small group sits together. Perhaps one individual points toward the stars. Perhaps another wonders what those tiny lights truly are. No written language exists. No telescopes. No science. Only curiosity. Yet curiosity has always been one of humanity's greatest gifts. Long before we understood the universe, we were already asking questions about it. Who placed the stars there? Why does the moon change shape? Where does the sun go each night? Every civilization, across every continent, would one day ask these same questions. The desire to understand may be one of the oldest parts of being human. As thousands of generations passed, human ancestors continued changing. Their brains expanded. Their communities became stronger. They learned to cooperate, to plan, to imagine. Eventually, one remarkable species appeared, Homo sapiens. Not the strongest animals, not the fastest, Not the largest, but perhaps the most curious. They looked toward the night sky, not merely with wonder, but with determination. One day, they would build telescopes, cross oceans, walk upon the moon, send machines beyond the solar system, and discover that every atom within their bodies was born inside ancient stars. The universe, after billions of years, had finally produced a way to observe itself. Take one slow, peaceful breath. Imagine standing beneath that ancient sky. The fire glows softly beside you. The stars stretch endlessly overhead. Somewhere in the silence, the first great questions have already been asked. As humanity slowly spread across the earth, the night sky remained unchanged. Every evening, the sun disappeared beyond the horizon. Darkness settled gently over mountains, forests, deserts, and oceans. Then, one by one, the stars appeared. No matter where people lived, the sky belonged to everyone. A child standing beside a quiet river 5,000 years ago saw many of the same stars that shine above us tonight. There is something deeply comforting about that thought. Civilizations rise, empires fade, languages change, yet the stars continue their silent journey, patiently watching the centuries pass. For our ancestors, the sky was far more than a beautiful sight. It became a calendar, a compass, a storyteller. Long before clocks or written maps, people learned to recognize familiar patterns among the stars. Groups of bright points were connected into shapes. A hunter, a lion, a great bird, a mighty hero. Today, we call these patterns constellations. The stars within a constellation are often separated by unimaginable distances. They only appear close together from our point of view on Earth. Yet these patterns help travelers cross deserts, sail vast oceans, and predict the changing seasons. The sky became humanity's first map. As generations passed, our ancestors noticed something remarkable. Most stars stayed in fixed positions, night after night, year after year. Their patterns barely changed, but a few bright objects moved slowly across the heavens. They wandered. These wandering lights were later named planets. The word itself comes from an ancient Greek term, meaning wanderer. Mercury, Venus, Mars, Jupiter, and Saturn all could be seen without telescopes. Each followed its own graceful path against the background of distant stars. For thousands of years, no one knew exactly what they were. Some believed they were gods. Others imagined they guided human destiny. Yet regardless of the stories, the planets inspired endless curiosity. Across the world, ancient civilizations built remarkable observatories, stone circles, towering temples, massive pyramids, many aligned carefully with the movements of the sun, the moon, or the stars. They were not merely monuments. They were places of observation, places where people patiently watched the heavens, night after night. Imagine standing atop an ancient hill, thousands of years ago. The air is cool. The world below lies asleep. Above, the Milky Way stretches across the sky like a glowing river of light. Without city lights, its beauty is almost overwhelming. Millions of stars, visible to the naked eye. You notice a bright planet rising slowly above the eastern horizon. Nearby, the moon glows softly. A shooting star quietly crosses the darkness. For a moment, the universe feels incredibly close. Our ancestors experienced this view almost every clear night. Perhaps that is why they developed such a deep connection with the heavens. They observed patiently, recorded carefully, wondered endlessly. They did not yet know that Earth was one planet among many, or that the sun was only one ordinary star. Those discoveries still lay far in the future. But the journey had already begun. Every careful observation, every question asked beneath the night sky, prepared humanity for one of its greatest revolutions, the birth of astronomy. The moment when wonder slowly transformed into science. Take one slow, peaceful breath. Imagine yourself lying beneath an ancient sky, far from every city. The Milky Way shines overhead. The cool night air surrounds you. The stars seem almost close enough to touch. You realize that every great discovery begins the same way, with someone looking upward and quietly asking, "What am I really seeing?" For thousands of years, humanity looked upward with wonder. The stars inspired myths. The moon inspired poetry. The sun inspired entire civilizations. Yet beneath every story, a quiet question remained. How does the universe truly work? The answer would not arrive all at once. Like every chapter in our journey, it would unfold slowly, patiently, across many generations. One curious mind, building upon another. Long before telescopes, ancient astronomers carefully observed the heavens. Night after night, they recorded where the stars appeared. They noticed the changing phases of the moon. They measured the length of the seasons. Without modern technology, their observations were astonishingly accurate. They proved something important. The universe followed patterns. It was not random. It was orderly, predictable, understandable. That realization changed everything. If nature followed rules, perhaps those rules could be discovered. Centuries passed. Questions multiplied. Some thinkers believed the Earth stood perfectly still, at the center of everything. It felt reasonable. After all, when we stand upon the grounds, it doesn't seem to move. The sun appears to rise, cross the sky, then disappear beyond the horizon. Everything seems to revolve around us. For many generations, that explanation satisfied almost everyone. Yet, a few curious minds began wondering if appearances could be misleading. One of them was a quiet scholar named Nicolaus Copernicus. He imagined something almost impossible. Perhaps the Earth was not the center at all. Perhaps our planet moved around the sun. It was a breathtaking idea. Simple, elegant, and deeply controversial. At first, few people accepted it. The universe had always seemed designed around humanity. To suggest otherwise required enormous courage. Yet ideas, like seeds, sometimes need time before they grow. Years later, another observer looked toward the heavens. His name was Galileo Galilei. Unlike anyone before him, he pointed a telescope toward the night sky. For the first time, human eyes saw the universe in astonishing detail. The moon, far from being perfectly smooth, was covered with mountains and deep craters. Dark spots marked the surface of the sun. Tiny moons circled Jupiter. Not everything revolved around Earth. The universe was more complex and more beautiful than anyone had imagined. Every new observation raised another question. Every answer opened another mystery. Science was not replacing wonder. It was deepening it. Imagine standing beside Galileo on a cool evening in Italy. The telescope points silently toward Jupiter. One by one, tiny points of light appear beside the planet. Night after night, they change position. At first, the movement seems confusing. Then, the pattern becomes clear. These tiny lights are moons, worlds, orbiting another world. In that quiet moment, humanity's understanding of the universe changes forever. It is easy today to forget how extraordinary that discovery truly was. Sometimes, the greatest revolutions happen not through loud celebrations, but through quiet observation. A single person, looking carefully and noticing something everyone else had missed. Take a slow, peaceful breath. Imagine yourself beneath a sky untouched by city lights. A simple telescope rests before you. Beyond its lens, the universe waits patiently, not hiding its secrets, but quietly inviting us to look a little closer. As telescopes revealed more of the universe, one mystery remained. Why did the planets never drift away into space? Why did the moon faithfully circle the Earth, night after night, year after year? Why did apples fall toward the ground instead of floating into the sky? At first glance, these questions seemed unrelated. One belonged to the heavens, the other to everyday life. Yet nature often hides profound simplicity behind seemingly different events. In the late 17th century, a young English mathematician named Isaac Newton began asking these very questions. He possessed an unusual habit. He rarely accepted simple explanations. Instead, he quietly wondered, what invisible rules govern the universe? One familiar story tells us that Newton watched an apple fall from a tree. Whether every detail of the story is true matters less than the question it inspired. Why? Did the apple fall downward? Why not sideways or upward? The answer would reshape science forever. Newton realized that the same invisible force pulling the apple toward Earth could also be holding the moon in its endless orbit. The planets, the comets, even the distant stars, all obeyed the same universal law: gravity, a force that reaches across unimaginable distances without making a sound, without ever resting, without asking for recognition. Gravity has no color, no scent, no visible shape. We cannot hold it in our hands, yet it quietly shapes everything. It gathered the first galaxies. It ignited the earliest stars. It formed our sun, built the earth, guides the moon, and keeps your feet gently resting upon the ground at this very moment. Imagine, for just a moment, that gravity suddenly disappeared. The oceans would drift into space. The atmosphere would slowly escape. The moon would continue traveling, never to return. The Earth itself would leave its orbit around the sun, becoming a lonely traveler, moving endlessly through the darkness. Gravity, though invisible, is one of the great architects of existence. It asks for nothing. It simply works, second after second, for billions of years. Perhaps that is one reason the universe feels so peaceful. Its greatest forces do not shout. They quietly perform their work, without interruption. Newton's discoveries explained not only the falling apple, but the graceful dance of the planets. Astronomers could now predict where worlds would appear, months, years, even centuries into the future. The universe, once filled with mystery, was slowly revealing its hidden patterns. Yet, every answer brought another question. If gravity could travel across empty space, how fast did it move? Could it ever become stronger? Could it bend light itself? For more than 200 years, no one knew. Then, a quiet young patent clerk, working in Switzerland, began imagining something extraordinary. His name was Albert Einstein. His ideas would transform our understanding of gravity more completely than anyone thought possible. Take a slow, gentle breath. Imagine yourself floating peacefully above the Earth. Far below, white clouds drift silently across blue oceans. The moon glides gracefully nearby. The sun shines warmly in the distance. Everything moves, not by chance, but through invisible relationships, written into the fabric of the universe itself. For centuries, Isaac Newton's understanding of gravity explained the movements of the heavens with remarkable accuracy. Planets followed predictable paths. The moon circled the Earth. Comets returned exactly when astronomers expected them. It seemed as though humanity had finally uncovered the invisible machinery of the universe. Yet, nature still held another secret, one that was stranger, more beautiful, and far more surprising than anyone had imagined. In the early 20th century, a young man worked quietly inside a small patent office in Switzerland. His daily job had little to do with astronomy. He reviewed inventions, read technical documents, and spent long hours thinking. His name was Albert Einstein. Unlike many scientists of his time, Einstein often began with imagination. He asked questions that sounded almost impossible. What would happen if you could ride alongside a beam of light? What would the universe look like if you traveled incredibly fast? Could time itself behave differently than we experience every day? These simple questions would eventually transform modern physics. In 1905, Einstein introduced a revolutionary idea. Light always travels at exactly the same speed, no matter who observes it, no matter how fast they are moving. At first, this seemed impossible. If light never changes speed, then something else must change instead: space and time. The two things we normally think of as completely separate are actually woven together, like threads in a single fabric. Today, scientists call this space-time. Imagine placing a heavy bowling ball on a stretched rubber sheet. The sheet bends beneath the weight. Now imagine rolling a marble nearby. The marble curves toward the larger object, not because the bowling ball is pulling it, but because the surface itself has changed shape. Einstein realized gravity works in a surprisingly similar way. The sun does not simply pull the Earth through empty space. Instead, its enormous mass gently bends the fabric of space-time. The Earth follows that gentle curve as it orbits the sun. The moon follows Earth's curve. Galaxies follow even larger curves. Everything moves along the shape of the universe itself. It is an elegant picture, one that transforms gravity from an invisible force into the quiet geometry of existence. Even light, which has no mass, cannot completely escape these curves. As it passes near a massive star or a giant galaxy, its path bends gently. Imagine watching a distant beam of starlight traveling across billions of light years. It crosses enormous cosmic distances without stopping. Then, as it passes near another galaxy, its path bends ever so slightly. That tiny curve can eventually reach Earth, allowing astronomers to observe galaxies that would otherwise remain hidden forever. The universe acts like an enormous natural telescope, one created not by human hands, but by gravity itself. Einstein's ideas sounded unbelievable. Even many scientists doubted them. But over time, nature quietly confirmed his predictions. During a total solar eclipse, astronomers observed starlight bending, exactly as Einstein had described. Decades later, powerful telescopes revealed giant arcs of light, curving around distant galaxy clusters. Today, we call this phenomenon gravitational lensing. It reminds us that space is not empty. It has shape. It can stretch. It can bend. And perhaps it still holds mysteries we have yet to imagine. Take one slow, peaceful breath. Picture yourself floating through the quiet darkness between galaxies. There is no up, no down, only the gentle curves of space, guiding every star, every planet, every ray of light across the endless universe. The cosmos is far stranger and far more beautiful than our ancestors could ever have dreamed.